CTV News at 5 with Hudson Mack.
Jenny Sedroff will fly home later tonight after a whirlwind week at the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota, where doctors have had a good look at her case and to put her under the microscope. Janice and her family were at Mayo for a second opinion on that risky surgery she needs that could leave her paralyzed. But doctors also have conducted a series of tests to look at her long-term prognosis. Right now, the most urgent issue is the tumor growing in her abdomen that's wrapped around her femoral nerve. The doctors say they must find a way to remove it without paralyzing her.
Overall, I can only say that thank you for our government and for all the people who helped us to get down here and to give Janice the opportunity to have seen all these beautiful, wonderful doctors. We're going back home with a lot more clarity of what's going on and what a future lies on, and the geneticists here, they know so much about neurofibromatosis compared to what we do in Canada.
There is some encouragement for the family as they fly home from the Mayo Clinic later tonight. They say they hope they'll be back, this time for treatments, not tests. They're expected to land in Victoria this evening. Well, the labour dispute at BC Transit is escalating, with the union now accusing BC Transit of using illegal replacement workers on the fleet. The union has asked the Labour Relations Board for an expedited hearing to stop Transit from using outside maintenance facilities during the strike. The CAW says that is a violation of the collective agreement outsourcing work that's related to the scheduled bus service, operators or maintenance. Transit, meantime, points to a clause in the contract that says contracting out is in fact allowed if there is no regular staff available to do the work.
Our aim is to get as many buses on the road as possible when the union is cooperating with staff to get them out. This was the first time this week that we could not pull that off, and the responsible thing to do was to get those 9 buses fixed so they can be back on the road providing service next week. It is in our collective agreement. It is something that we can do.
We believe that BC Transit's actions over the past few weeks have led us to believe that they're not looking at trying to get a resolve. Even the current contracting out of these buses, I've spoken to several maintenance staff, and they believe that yes, they could continue with the service that's on the road, and there would be cancellations, but those cancellations would be more operator related as opposed to the maintenance side of it.
The union is asking the Labour Relations Board to order Transit to stop using outside maintenance workers during the labour dispute. It's not clear at this point when the LRB will hear that argument. Well, after a record year this year, there will be fewer cruise ships tying up in Victoria at Ogden Point in 2013. The Greater Victoria Harbour Authority says there are 211 ships scheduled to visit the city next year. That is 13 fewer than this year. But the Harbour Authority says despite the slight drop, it'll still be a strong cruise ship season.
Slightly fewer ships than last year, mostly due to the repositioning of Disney Wonder's home port to Vancouver versus Seattle. And also the passengers look like they'll be around 466,000 at 100% load factor. Last year we were at 475, so it's going to be another strong year.
With 224 ships dropping anchor in 2012, it was a record year for cruises in Victoria. The Harbour Authority says it's just going to get better. It expects a 3% increase in visits every year, beginning in 2013. And a downtown Victoria landmark could soon be welcoming the cruise visitors at Ogden Point. The old E&N train station needs to be moved from its current location at the foot of Johnston Street to make way for the new bridge. The Harbour Authority says it is considering bringing it to Ogden Point to serve as a base for water taxi and shuttle service.
In the middle of 2 master plans, one for Ogden Point and one for Fisherman's Wharf. Both of those will result in a rezoning. When we're done with the rezoning on those 2 properties, we will determine the best place for that E&N rail station. It was put up for bid by the city. We bid on that building with the idea that we'd like to see it reused and retained within Greater Victoria, but that it would be a phenomenal asset for perhaps Fisherman's Wharf or Ogden Point.
The old E&N station is being dismantled right now. It'll be stored at Ogden Point until a final decision is made as to where it will be moved permanently. Victoria woman will be adding a few more zeros to her bank account as of today after cashing in her $1 million Lotto ticket. Penny Nabokov was grocery shopping at the thrifty food store in Saanich Centre when she decided to check her ticket. She says there was chaos and excitement that broke out in the store when the machine rang up all the zeros and started playing that winning song. The ticket for the November 2nd draw was purchased at a Lotto retailer in Tillicum Centre. Penny plans to pay off her mortgage and replace her car, which is 25 years old. There's a new poll out that shows a growing number of Canadians is paying tribute to our fallen soldiers. The Ipsos Reid survey finds 30% of respondents plan to attend Remembrance Day ceremonies on Sunday. That is up from 24% last year. And the number of people who intend to observe 2 minutes of silence is up to 80%. Also, 82% of Canadians are wearing poppies in remembrance. More than 100 people crowded Esquimalt Municipal Hall last night, there to ask questions and to try to get answers about the future of policing in their community.
What's happened in the past, where everyone seems focused on the future of the organization.
Victoria Police Chief Jamie Graham, Esquimalt Mayor Barb Desjardins and other police and municipal representatives listened to suggestions from people in the community on how to make Esquimalt safer and move policing forward.
Questions about RCMP or Victoria, at this point, those are non-questions, because how do we make this work for both communities? How does Esquimalt get what its citizens have said they want in terms of their policing, and how does Victoria get what their citizens say that they want in their policing, and are forced working very hard to do that?
In June, Justice Minister Shirley Bond rejected Esquimalt's request to switch from Vic PD to the RCMP for its community policing. At the same time, Desjardins said she was very disappointed with that decision. Victoria Police are trying to find a man who grabbed a 14-year-old girl in Esquimalt. It happened last night in the 800 block of Rock Heights Avenue. Police say the girl was walking home when the man came up from behind, shouted at her, then put his arms around her. She was able to get away safely. Police think the man was intoxicated. He's described as Caucasian, in his late 20s or early 30s, 6 feet tall with brown hair. Not much more to go on than that. But if you have any information, please call Victoria Police. A Victoria woman who was convicted of fraud has been released from prison early. Tina Salmons won her freedom after changes were made to parole regulations. You may recall her name. She stole more than $250,000 from friends and relatives, pretending to have cancer, heart disease, and liver disease. Salmons gambled all the money she got at the casino. Last year, she was sentenced to 3 years in jail, but she's now free because the changes allow first-time non-violent offenders to have accelerated parole. Salmons faces a long list of parole conditions, including no contact with the people that she defrauded, no drug use, and no gambling. A man who threw urine on a City of Victoria worker has been found guilty of assault. You'll remember this. It happened during last year's Occupy protests. The man had camped out in a tree in Centennial Square, hanging a bicycle from one of the limbs. The city declared that bicycle to be a danger and sent the worker in to remove it. That's when Lyle Barrett dumped a container of urine on him. Barrett says he's sorry that the city worker had to become a target so that he could get his message across.
I think it's terrible for him. He's probably being teased about it and called Mr. Peon and so on. And I reached for water. I had water, juice, and urine up there, and I just grabbed the first bottle, and I was so frustrated at that point, because if he had cut the bicycle down, that would have stopped my publicity stunt. If I had come down and taken the bike down, that would have defeated the 30-day purpose that I was going to be up there with as a publicity stunt.
Well, now that Barrett has been found guilty, he'll be sentenced early next year. He also has been ordered to undergo a psychiatric evaluation. An update on the story we first brought you last night. A Port Alberni man wanted for manslaughter has now been apprehended. RCMP captured 28-year-old William David Oikel last night in Nanaimo. Harbour City Mounties tracked him down to an apartment on St. George Crescent, found him hiding in a bedroom closet. Oikel was taken into custody without incident. Animal rescue groups up and down Vancouver Island are reporting a dramatic increase in snowy white owl sightings. It's not a good thing, though. It means that the rare birds are in trouble. Many are like one rescued on the North Island last night, severely underweight and unhealthy. It was the third one to be brought into the Avian Rescue Centre in Merville this week, and it arrived on the back of videographer Gord Kurbis's CTV news truck. He was in Port McNeill covering a story about Willie Mitchell. When he heard the Avian Rescue Centre needed help to transport a bird that had just been found, he was heading south, so gave the owl a ride. The rescue centre says the owl population boomed in the Arctic this year, and many of the birds have made it as far south as Vancouver Island. But that long trip has taken its toll.
It's called an eruption where the birds don't normally occur here, but in certain years and certain circumstances, they do come down to this area. Last year there were a lot in the lower mainland. This year they seem to be coming over to Vancouver Island.
The owls are protected and are listed as a species of special concern. The other two that were brought to the rescue facility have died. This one, for now at least, is still hanging on. The province is opening doors of opportunity for high school students as they choose their career paths. Education Minister Don McCrae visited the Ferry Technical Wing at Vic High this afternoon to learn more about trades training. Instructors say students who take the trades route are almost guaranteed a job after school.
If you don't want to deal with unemployment and high student debt, trades are the place to be. In Victoria, all over the province, especially up north, everything's in demand, and they're all good paying jobs, and they're all set well for the future.
At Vic High, students can get a head start on a variety of trades: mechanics, carpentry, electrical work, and welding. And BC school districts are now free to set their own teaching calendars, putting the possibility of year-round schooling on the table. The province has previously approved the regulations that allow schools to deviate from the standard 10-month school calendar, and that means that students and families could see staggered holidays instead of the regular 2 months off over the summer. The new calendar options will take effect for BC districts in the 2013-2014 school year. Major delays on the Trans-Canada Highway this afternoon after a 5-car pileup near Mill Bay. Witnesses say a car was weaving in and out of traffic at high speed before then rear-ending another car, and that caused a chain reaction. A 16-year-old driver was taken to Cowichan District Hospital. Officers say the erratic driver, though, was a 23-year-old woman. RCMP say they found open liquor in her vehicle. They think she was intoxicated. They're doing tests on that and are still investigating. Well, the city of Nanaimo is going to ditch bottled water in public facilities and will tap into natural resources instead. Nanaimo is ending the sale of plastic water bottles at its rec centers as part of the Blue Community Initiative that recognizes safe tap water as a human right. Council says getting rid of disposable water bottles will help to create a sustainable future.
The thing that we're so proud of is that our water that we have here is gravity fed. So the greenhouse gas emissions are much reduced over a commercial plant where it's reproduced in some form. Much less energy is used, and I think this is the way to go. And we're very proud of our plan, our decision, and moving ahead, it's the right thing to do.
As of today, all plastic bottles from vending machines have been removed, and concessions are no longer selling bottled water at Nanaimo city-owned facilities.